Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and... the hell, why is... Yep, we're scuffed already. And with me, I have three good brothers and sisters, and forgive me if I am a little bit off because technology has decided to give me the middle finger for a good amount of the day today. Now you may see that one face is missing. Joe could not make it due to work obligations. That is an unfortunate thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we have Sig, we have Tabby, and we have brother Alex, who I will add in his particular reactive in a moment. So I do apologize for. So here's how things have gone. I ended up pulling a bit of reshuffling compared to what I initially planned, because Where's Blade dropped a 50-page preview on my lap, and Dreamwalkers dropped a quick start on my lap, and we'll be getting into both of those tonight. And Labor Day weekend, so I end up having to deal with traffic issues on the way home. And then I have network issues when I get home.
Sheesh, the hits just keep on coming.
Which is why we are so damn late.
Better late than never.
Stop coming and they don't stop coming.
Don't stop.
No. Just no. So let me...
Well, I'm excited, though. This is going to be awesome, man. I'm loving this artwork, by the way. I just saw the front cover.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow.
Gives me, like, Yu Yu Hakusho vibes with the art.
Right?
I don't know where you'd...
I don't know. My brain is also not just that. It's got to be maybe it's Flame of Rekka, but I don't know.
I was thinking more Vision of Escaflowne, but that's just me.
You guys are going retro right here. I'm loving it.
So,
oh yeah.
Well, the girl looks a lot like I can't remember her name from Rekka.
Let me give you guys a bit of background. So, Where's Blade is a Japanese TTRPG that was made in 1989, and has spawned a lot of novels, a few manga, a few audio dramas, and a lot of model kits. And it is getting translated by Linewing Publishing, who I have a long friendship with, as part of their Legends of Japan sub-series, which is going to focus on older Japanese TTRPGs. Linewing,
cool.
For those of you who do not know, they mainly specialize in bringing Japanese tabletop games stateside. They've done so with several games. I have done multiple interviews on a bunch of them. I've done a previous Valley on at least 2 of them. And Where's Blade is going to be the first of their classic line.
Okay.
So originally Where's Blade was in a box set, and the central theme that we have is a very sword and sorcery setting that has mecha as well. Vision of Escaflowne is one parallel. But I've also brought up works like Elemental Gearbolt, as well as Panzer Dragoon in terms of the style that we're going for with this. The version that we are covering was, in Japan, the revival version that came out in 1994 and was intended to be a soft reset, but in the mid 90s, the TTRPG scene took a massive hit where TCGs were eating everybody's lunch. Well, up until 2002. Things like Monster Collection and a bunch of other TCGs were getting a lot of attention and selling a lot more than TTRPGs were. And then, for reasons nobody's been able to explain, around 2002 it just suddenly died.
Oh wow.
Where all of a sudden it wasn't raking in the big bucks as much, and that allowed TTRPGs to make a slow comeback in the years since. I will note that some shitty journalists have referred to this as D&D meets Gundam, which those people are going to be in for a rude awakening. But I had previously talked about it through a fan translation I found that was very scattershot, that I spent a bit of time in Google Docs trying to make it somewhat readable. But a lot of the name changes that are in are going to be from having better translation or just wording that would have thrown people off in the initial fan translation I had. And of course, since Lion Wing decided to do a 50-page preview, I figured this is as good a time as any to go into that.
Sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm down just from the cover alone.
Yep. So first we have that Warrior's Blade takes place on the continent of Ahan. This is the main thing that separates this continent from medieval history would be the power of wares, also known as the Sacred Writ. I will note that the continent of Ahan, which is a very large continent, in size, I'd say it's akin to the Eurasian supercontinent, and is mostly concerned with the western section, a central section, and the eastern section. The core book here is going to focus on the western regions, which is already pretty large. But, we talk about harnessing wares, making various miracles possible. It drives the iron giants called Ryude, or machine soldiers, can be channeled to wreak havoc through arcane rites, and empowers the Wares Blades, special relics with a multitude of uses. So first thing to note, the game's only using D10s. That's the only thing most of the time you're only gonna be rolling one D10. Sometimes you might roll more. And any note of Wares Maker or WM is the game's equivalent of a GM.
Is it okay if I ask a question real quick?
Shoot.
Do most of these games created by this company, they actually that same exact system? I know that they're right. So my apologies. I know they're like the ones publishing these games and releasing it to the West. Do majority of these games have this exact system? So that way, if we learn this, it's kind of like it kind of streams over to the other games.
No.
Or because they're taking. Okay, that's good enough. Cool.
That idea of one system that a bunch of games are sharing, that's not really a thing in Japan.
Oh, cool! I really love that actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously for Sig, this is not his first rodeo when it comes to Japanese tabletop. But I've made very clear that a lot of the assumptions that are made with tabletop in the West aren't as applicable when it comes to the Japanese side.
Makes sense.
Nope. Each one seems to be its own vibe and knows what it is, as opposed to most stuff in the West, which can be a mix of just about everything.
Yeah. But there's a few commonalities that you're going to see when dealing with Japanese tabletop. One of them is everything is its own beast. Everybody's more or less doing their one particular thing and not trying to go generic or universal. For example, a while back, Sig and I covered Tokyo Nova, which is a cyberpunk adjacent game that focuses on card playing instead of using dice. It is built for
I know about that one.
It is
Cool.
built for the world of Tokyo Nova, and it is not interested in doing anything but that world.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way, Where's Blade is not interested in doing anything but Ahan. And it is perfect. It is
Like Take On
built for that. The other thing to note, and this is something I've mentioned plenty of times, and I'll probably end up having to mention again. Comparing a lot of works to D&D isn't going to really work, especially since D&D has always struggled to have a major foothold for various reasons. And I know that there's an attempt nowadays to try and break into Japan again, but that ship has long since sailed.
Even though it's trying to make a comeback for whatever reason.
I'm more annoyed that they decided to use that comeback to bring Karatura back in a way that we can't get.
Don't get me started on the people ranting about a possible Dark Sun comeback.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Ooh.
But part of the problem was the fact that AD&D took way too long to hit Japanese store shelves. I mean, it did. There was also the fact that a bunch of other games beat them to the punch in terms of establishing themselves, like Call of Cthulhu or World of Darkness or Traveler or GURPS. A lot of games hit the Japanese scene very early. So D&D wasn't the first there; it was just one of them. The other problem is the fact that supporting D&D in Japan has been this start and stop thing, where they'll support it for a few years, then it'll be nothing for a few more years, and then rinse repeat. And it's hard to establish a consistent audience when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
I've likened it to when a TV show keeps changing its time slot, and then the studio behind that show is acting surprised that less people are watching. It's like, what did you expect was going to happen?
Right.
And yes, if it sounds like I'm making a Firefly reference, I am. Because fuck you, Fox. I'm still salty even after all these years. But I'm pretty sure you can think of a few others. I could also bring up Young Justice, but that's another matter. Looking at the chat, Out has said, been waiting on Where's Blade for years. I'm happy we're finally getting into the West. So am I. I'm hoping this does well enough that a bunch of the novels get sent stateside as well. Because the world of Where's Blade has a lot of lore that one book couldn't contain. As far as whether or not the novels came first or the game came first, it's not a chicken and egg situation. It's a case of both. But and he also says if they do bring Dark Sun back, it's going to be the most brand safe version of it.
Yep.
That's assuming it even does come back. was a multimedia franchise before people decided to go and make multimedia franchises the norm. I suppose. But getting back to the subject matter, we have the play example, then ending the session. As well as the game terms proper. And obviously a D5 is just going to be a D10 in half. Nobody's going to be rolling a 5-sided dice. I know you're thinking about saying that you would, Tabby. No, you're not doing it.
One. I actually have one. It's bizarre looking, but I have one.
Pixar, it didn't happen.
Let me go find it. Later I will, it's in that big old blob of it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a 100-sided die, too.
You're not rolling a
Just a ball.
100-sided die. Shit like that belongs on the driving range.
You should see it. It's ridiculous. It's like Sid can attest. I have
ridiculous.
I have a 30-sided die. I have like a 50-sided die. I found an entire set on Temu that was like $10, and I got I think it was like 72 dice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but anyways, after that we get into a bit on the continent of Ahan, starting with the glossary. So I already explained what Ryude are. The method of making mechs is a closely guarded secret. In the West, it's the Artificer Society. In the East, it's the Sacred Sealed Church that controls the creation of mecha. It could be replicated by someone else, but because of the cost involved, it doesn't happen often. The majority of them are made by those two groups. A Ryude Master is someone who's able to operate one, and you do have to kind of wrestle it to your will when you get one, which is why it's not a case where just anyone gets onto a mech. You do have to exert a bit of dominance for what amounts to the machine spirit.
Yeah, so some level of attunement involved.
Yeah, and if you can't do it, it ain't moving. But then you have word casting, which is the primary magic system.
Okay, is that like naming?
No, it is. It's called that due to, first off, you need specific gems called wear stones. Sometimes these are put into the form of masks, which is why you see a lot of word casters who have masks on. The mask is literally their focus.
Gotcha.
And it's because otherwise they need to be holding the stone, so having it as a mask means that they can cast while having both hands free. And part of the reason it's called that is because the power itself is referred to as the Sacred Writ. And of course, a wearstone is a stone that's imbued with it. A mask is, as mentioned before, the artifacts that contain stones that can be used by wordcasters to help make casting easier. Masks are also used as the control device for a Ryude. You take the mask out, the Ryude is just a bunch of scrap. Fortunately, most people who make Ryude know this, aren't stupid, and will make face shields to compensate for that.
Yep.
Then we have Numenism, which is essentially divine magic. This is what's used by the clerics and monks. In one of my early translations, it was missionaries. This can either take the form of pneumatic force or pneumatic guards. The former is basically key. The latter is divine magic. And of course, there's also things like invocation, which aren't as powerful as word casting, but certainly effective. Then we have a bit of a thing on the geography. As mentioned, it's split into western and eastern regions. There is one region in the middle between west and east, but that's beyond the scope of this document. And as you can kind of see, there's, even if we're only focusing on the western side of the continent, there's still a lot of wiggle room. And of course, the main inhabitants are the Ahars, which are humanoid equivalent, though there are non-humans that are out there. The Magu Drop are a type of lizard folk. The Dugis Mahan are essentially dwarves in this kind of setting. And he says, so basically only Tops can pilot the giant robots. You're not too far off. And hang on a sec. But then we have religions. The main one is Pagana, which is a polytheistic one that focuses on 8 gods led by Mabadi. It has split into 3 factions: Holy Pagana, which seeks the divine through invocation of spirits; Sacred Pagana, which follows Numinism; and a lot of other smaller sects. One of them being the Church of Wares, as well as the Numidic traditions of Nian and Rich Mahana.
So you said Numinism was like key, right?
One of the forms that it can take is key. The other is divine magic.
So this, in a way, kind of reminds me of the difference between Ragnarok's priests and monks.
Yep, I could certainly see that. Though, if someone picks either of the clergy classes, they do have to list out which sect that they follow. And each one has their own rules that you have to abide by.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have player characters. Now, even though the game has a class system, it is worth noting that classes are akin to starting packages. I drew a parallel when I was doing my interview with Bradley, the head of Lion Wing, that it kind of reminded me of the roles design in Cyberpunk, in the sense that when you pick a certain role in Cyberpunk, whether it be the OG Cyberpunk, 2020, Red, or V3, let's be honest, nobody plays V3. The role is not like a level-based class. You have a starting set of packages and one unique thing that it does.
Cool.
And you have a similar setup with this. Your choice of class is going to grant you a certain a set of unique perks, a XP budget, although it doesn't go into that here, and a starting set of skills. And even with that, there are variations when it comes to it. But the 4 classes here are the 4 big categories. Warriors, which are obviously your combat folks, and can be. Now, not every warrior is a Ryud master, but those who are Ryud masters are probably warriors. No, they can dish out more damage and take less damage. The Wordcaster, as mentioned, is the mage archetype, which is why they can speak the Holy Writ, and they start with a Wear Stone. If you don't have a Wear Stone, you're not doing magic. And I should note a few things further. One, yes, we are using an MP system, kind of.
Cool.
And two,
Like it.
spellcasting is divided into 8 categories known as gates. And those gates are in 4 pairs. So if you pick one gate, you're going to have a harder time with its opposite.
Mm.
Gotcha.
And of course, we have Spiritualist, which is basically the clergy side of things. You're either going to be dealing with being a monk or an invoker.
Okay.
And I do enjoy the fact that as a spiritualist, you can do sermons.
Cool.
I always enjoy characters that can give sermons because a lot of times they're kind of crazy and can make people do what they want them to do. It's kind of fun.
Obviously, you're not going to be that freeform. You do have to adhere to the behavior set by the clergy.
Well, yeah.
Do they get into the specificity within this book for that, or is it kind of just
That's going to be
like
beyond the
just
scope of this
general
preview.
things? Gotcha.
Yeah, and the 4th is tradesfolk. This is kind of a catch-all to profession-based archetypes. You know, thieves, doctors, alchemists, those kind of things, the ones that don't fit the other 3 categories. And because of that, there's going to be more tradesfolk specializations than any other. But from what I've been told, there's a built-in understanding that it wouldn't be out of the ordinary to make up your own tradesfolk archetype, because they can't put every trade in one book. This isn't say unless you want a bloated ass class list a la the career system in Warhammer Fantasy, with a bunch of careers that nobody's gonna take, because who the hell is eagerly anticipating playing a tanner?
What about a rat
Man.
cat?
Final Fantasy 14.
You know, I was really looking forward to playing that Tanner, and then you just had to go and ruin my day. I'll just go off and do my own
Smash
thing.
dreams, Mildred.
Have any of you ever been in a tannery?
No,
Yes.
unfortunately.
No.
Then you know that, Alex, you know the smell then.
Not pleasant.
No.
I think we've talked about it in a game or two, probably. Because I've had characters who were like, hey, is there this kind of shop nearby? Is there this kind of shop? And I'm fairly certain that they have asked,
Yeah.
is there a tanner nearby?
But that sort of simulationism, yeah. I leave that kind of thing to the grogs, the people who think that we need to do an accurate recreation of every aspect of medieval life from 400 years ago.
Oh, the BroSR.
BroSR and OSR. I have no problem throwing both of them under the bus.
Shots fired.
I've been firing that shot for years.
For the record, I did not say that. That was Mildred. That's fine. I won't know. Who's watching?
Oh, I know. And for those people, I'll tell them take a number and get in line. But Then we get to ability scores. Now, most of these are going to work the way you'd expect them to, just straight modifiers. There is no rolling a score and then generating the modifier.
Mm-hmm.
Except for luck.
You gotta get lucky.
Luck is going to work in a different way that I will get to. And actually, I have to correct myself. It is in that score value setup, but you're not rolling the. Actually, no, you are. I don't know why I thought you weren't rolling it. I think it's because I've been focused so much on Legend Edition, which doesn't do that. But you are rolling. I believe it was 3d5 for each, and the modifier is the base value divided by 3, rounded down, of course. So because of that, because of the whole 3d5 approach, let me grab my good old fashioned friend Any Dice. So 3d5. So the average result is going to be 9. Now let me double check to make sure it was 3d5 and not 2d5 or something, because I don't want to come off like I'm talking out of my ass any more than normal.
Which is a rare skill. Yeah. Some would say talent.
He had to clarify any more than normal, or I would have said something.
So yeah, it is 3d5, and those are being rolled from top to bottom. And I did also check. You can't at this part. You can't keep a result higher than 13. You also can't have a result lower than 8.
Oh.
Very interesting.
Which is interesting because 8 and 10 are the second highest result according to just straight probability.
Makes sense.
Of course, when I wrote that, it was assuming straight 3d5, not 3d10 divided in half. So things might skew a little bit. But then you have the base initiative number, which is your sense value. Sense is one of your primary abilities. As mentioned, we have sense, agility, will, constitution, charm, and luck. It is interesting that there isn't a strength equivalent, but your initiative value is Sen plus whatever modifier you get from your armor. And obviously initiative is going to determine when you act, but it's also going to play a factor in your combat rolls. Now your BN is is battle number, which is your basic 2-hit. It is calculated based on your agility value and your armor mod. As well as how many ranks you have in a weapon skill. Then your DN or defense number is your equivalent of AC. It is based on your agility, your defense skill level, and any armor mods.
Interesting.
And physical and mental durability is essentially your HP and MP, though you're not going to be very tanky, because your physical durability is equal to your Constitution ability score, and your mental durability is equal to your Will ability score. And if either of those go to 0, you're KO'd.
Let's say you're dead.
Which is why casters cannot just throw spells around. They have to be somewhat careful. Also, hello there, Emov. I see you in the chat. But if any of you played Star Ocean 3, think of the MP kill in that game, where running out of MP can be just as dangerous as running out of HP.
Sheesh. I've never played that, but that sounds unpleasant.
I've played a little bit of it, but not. I don't think I played Star Ocean 3. But
yeah. But point is, you do have to be careful. It'd be really nasty if there are certain monsters or enemies that directly attack mental durability. But it also means that say if you're a warrior who's like, oh, I'm not gonna be using mental durability at all. There are other ways that mental durability can be drained, include beyond just spell casting. But
yeah, I really like that idea, because it kind of, I'm sure you guys who love the anime in here can agree with this. It's very anime, right? Like you exhausted all efforts from like a magical standpoint, spiritual, whatever you want to call it for the game, and then all of a sudden your character's kind of like passed out because you've unloaded this big Nova blast or whatever. You know what I mean? It's very that's a very cool, like, that self-sacrifice for others kind of concept. I think it's pretty dope that they implemented that, where you do have to worry about your mental state there, your mental durability. That's very, very cool.
I like it.
Now,
yeah.
Something I should note to cover my ass is that spellcasting itself is just a skill. So there's really nothing stopping you from picking it up later. It's just that if you pick Wordcaster, you've got a head start.
Okay.
So, and since this game is doing the XP as currency approach, you can do it. You're just gonna have to put in some work. Speaking of which, then we have luck. Now, luck is not used as a modifier per se. It's used as a resource for luck rolls, which is based on the ability score. Because luck is the main one that doesn't really do the modifier as much, at least in the way that some of the other skills do. Again, I know I'm teasing that, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
And oh, nice. Amov's doing his first FFLE campaign. But then we have skills and techniques. So skills range from 1, so you're a beginner, to 12, a master. Though there is the implication that it can go beyond that. And of course, each skill is tied to a certain ability. So so different weapon categories are agility, defense is also agility. I do like that we have skills categorized. It's always nice when that is done. Physical and mental resistance are going to be one of the primary ways that you are able to take more hits. It's not going to increase. As I understand it, it's not going to increase your max durability. It's basically going to give you some degree of soak. And then we have the mental adventure skills, which are pretty standard of what you'd expect. The specialized skills like drive drive varies, and it is used on its own rules. That is what you use in order to control a Ryude. Word casting, as mentioned before, though I believe with word casting, each gate is a separate skill. I might be wrong on that. Keep in mind I was relying on a unreliable translation up until this point. You have a similar thing with numinism. You have the two forms of it. Well, not the two forms of numinism. You have numinism and then invocation. And skill. There is a very strong implication that ability scores are going to be locked in, but skills are not. When it's talking about proficiency points, that is essentially XP as currency. This is the reason why I said in a stray comment this morning on Twitter that I think a lot of people are going to have a rude awakening when it comes to Where's Blade, because they're going to be thinking it's going to be operating under a D&D like approach, and it's not. This is a game where skills are the word of the day, and that's why I'd say it's going to have more in common with the interlock system in Cyberpunk, or even things like basic role-playing, which very much lives and dies on its skill system. But then we have equipment, starting with weapons. We don't have a weapon list per se for this yet, but any weapon is going to list out how many hands are needed, and one-handed or two-handed. There are some races that might have. I remember an implication that some races have more than two hands, which makes.
I was just about to make a joke about the four-handed greatsword.
I've seen some games do that. I've taken the approach of dual wielding greatswords. Let's see. So it has classes, but classes are more side grades you get compared to the main meat and potatoes, which are these skills. Yeah, that's why I made the analogy to interlock earlier.
Right.
You might get a starting package and one special thing, but the real meat and potatoes is going to be the skill system. And Ammo says, so we have a death state. So do we have a death state, or is a knockout for player characters, or somewhere in between? I'm not going to say whether that's the case. I'm assuming knockout until I hear otherwise. But then we have the BN modifier. This is how the weapon modifies your battle number. Positive modifiers are weapons that are easier to use. Negative ones are trickier. And there are 3 types of BN modifiers. Melee, self-explanatory. Charge, a modifier if you're using the charge action. And ranged. And if there's just a dash there, you can't use it for that. And then we have the damage value, which is self-explanatory. And the thing is that the damage value also indicates a cap. I.e. the maximum possible damage value you can do. The exception is critical hits, which I will note a crit is rolling a straight 10, and a botch is rolling a 1 on a standard roll, which is normally just going to be 1d10 plus modifiers. So you've got a much bigger chance here to do a critical hit than you might in other affairs. And you basically got a 10% chance to do it. And of course, you also have the critical value, which determines when crits are landed. And of course, projectile weapons will have their range. And as you can kind of see, in universe, the game has its own versions of measurements. And obviously, when it comes to aiming at a ranged target, it's a -1 penalty to BN for each Liet past that range. 1 Liet is akin to 5 meters. And since I know some of you don't speak meters, you speak freedom units. Let me do a conversion for you.
Freedom.
So 1 Liet is about 16 feet, give or take.
Goodness.
You said 16 feet?
Technically 16.4042. So 16.4 feet. But I'm rounding down for the sake of simplicity.
Okay.
He says,
do you know if they tend to utilize are they privy to utilizing like grids at all, or is this do the people in the east tend to like go more towards just like actually calculating in inches and stuff? Well, not inches, but like pulling out the measuring tape and moving across the board in that way.
On the game,
like what's
but the wargaming scene never
Left
took
or
off in Japan. A lot of the people who got into tabletop, even in the early days, came in from the computer gaming scene, and magazines like Comptique service both TTRPGs and computer games. So a lot of early TTRPGs were built with that kind of background in mind, and thus grid combat was not as much of a thing. At least not as stringent of a thing. You'd only see it crop up if it specifically is warranted, like say hexes in BattleTech, and hot take here, but hexes are better than squares.
You just trying to piss everyone off.
Their boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes them cheer.
Well, hexes are awesome. I love it. Yeah. Gloomhaven does it for a reason, man. That's great.
Besides, me pissing people off with the God's honest truth is welcome to the monastery. Our hands are rated E for everyone.
Oh, this is so good. So good.
But
oh, sorry. So I was just asking because I was thinking like because I would love to introduce more of these Eastern games to Western audiences, specifically the younger crowd. We have these game stores and these local game stores, and we try to introduce as many different type of games other than just the Wizard of the Coast ones and stuff like that. So that being said, that's why I was asking to see if there's a way to simplify it in a way that is more acceptable and is not straying too far from the path that they're writing down here. Because this seems awesome so far, and I would love to showcase it to like a bunch of like 12-year-olds and see what they think, right? Because their parents all come in and they get excited about playing new things that aren't just D&D. So, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. My bad. Just trying to think outside the box here.
Let's see, have they ever said that they're going to bring over Sword Story? Is it Sword World? Sword World's is being handled by Mugen Gaming, not by Lionwing. That translation is in the works, but the Kickstarter for that isn't going to be happening until early next year.
Which I am all over.
And a bit of it, I'd say a bit of a shameless plug, but you cannot shame someone who has no shame. Next month I will be doing a Sword World focused podcast as a bi-weekly affair.
I was muted that whole time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to tell you that I didn't disagree with the hex. I thought it was fun.
Oh no. She's going in on it, man. She's going in.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
Now.
Yeah, I think if people were being honest, for the most part, it is a much more balanced approach at the very least. Even if you're talk from an objective standpoint. Sorry, if you don't talk from a subjective standpoint, objectively it allows for more versatility and is more balanced.
Also, less opportunity for kicking circles.
Yes.
No. I have felt that the way people approach grid combat needs a re-examination, since there's a lot of tradition for its own sake, but that's getting ahead of myself. The last thing when it comes to projectile weapons is reload time. Basically how long it takes to reload. A slingshot or a bow is going to take 1 segment, whereas a crossbow is going to take 5. And an arbalest is going to take 10. Which some might say, why would it take 5? I'm like, crossbows are nice, but they do take a while to load up, even if you've got a crank. In fact, if you...
I think it's still a good 20-30 seconds, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Depending on the type of crank, not only is it going to take a while, but if you screw up the rhythm, you got to uncrank it and do the whole thing all over again. And with an arbalest, well, arbalests are fucking big.
Yeah.
But then we have armor, which is divided into body, head, and shield. You can have 1 of each. Armor has 2 attributes. Absorption, which is basically soak. If you're a warrior, you get +1 to soak right out of the gate. And armor modifier, which I mentioned before is going to be a modifier for BN and DN. And I will always appreciate armor being soak more than armor adding to dodge, because it always seems a bit odd that heavier armor somehow made you dodge better.
Oh yeah. I forgot what system it was, but there was this system and it got me so frustrated that you shot this lightning bolt spell, and it was a type where you roll to hit somebody with lightning, which is already kind of weird. But you roll to hit the lightning, and the person's plate mail armor, since it's increasing their defense, or AC as you would say in like D&D terms, that armor was basically dodging out the way easier of a lightning bolt attack. And I was like, what is going on here? I know games aren't supposed to be simulators or anything like that, but how on earth are you dodging easier in plate mail, like with someone shooting an electricity blast in your face, right? Like that doesn't... Yeah. Something's wrong here with that. So I agree with you 100%. Man.
I know some people twist themselves into knots about it, but if an attack doesn't beat that defense or AC or whatnot, it's considered to be a miss and does no damage. That is a dodge.
Right. That's a dodge, yeah.
And I'm not going to if the boot fits, I'm going to wear it. But, then we have the miscellaneous items. The standard backpack, water skin, rope. You don't have 5 feet of rope, you have 3 liets, or about 12 meters worth of rope. So you've got just shy of 40 feet of rope as the basic setup. And of course, currency. The golda is the primary currency.
And yet it's silver. I'm not kidding. That's what it says.
Yeah, it is a silver coin, which I'm perfectly fine with. I prefer a silver standard instead of a gold standard with currency, because Well, for a lot of trade, that's how it was going to work. But you have the rule of 10 approach. 10 copper goldas is 1 silver golda, and 100 silver goldas is 1 golden golda. Though I don't think people are going to be fussing about which type is being used, and are going to focus more on the total.
You're gonna focus more on the golda.
Mm-hmm.
And how much golda do I have?
Yep. But now we get into...
I think from here on out, if you role play this game, you have to put at the end of everything now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But now we have the proper mechanics. And as mentioned, it is a straight D10 roll. So it's base value plus skill plus D10. And you have to beat the difficulty rating. This is what's always going to be referred to as an action roll. And the average is going to be 8 to 9, as we can see in the chart. And if you have a skill level that's higher than the difficulty, you can re-roll a 1. But since rolling a 1 normally would be an automatic botch, that's actually somewhat advantageous. Now, if the outcome is less than the difficulty, you fail. If it's greater, you succeed. If all dice come up 1, and there's a reason they say all dice, that is a total failure. So essentially a botch. If all dice come up 10 and it beats difficulty, you have a crit, a perfect success. I do like that because of the fact you still have to beat difficulty, there's none of this, I've got a 10% chance of automatically succeeding. No, you still have to beat the difficulty.
Yes.
Which I'd say is a good way to minimize people going, oh, I know the difficulty rating is 20, but I've got a % chance to get a natural 10. No, we're not doing that here. But I mentioned before, luck rolls are a different beast, and this is where we kind of get into that. So instead of rolling d10, you spend luck as a pool. For each point, you roll 1d10 and add them up. If the roll's higher than difficulty, you pass. If you choose not to spend luck, you can just do a normal action roll, but you do have to take any bad luck you get. And if you try and do a luck roll but you have no luck points, the roll automatically fails.
Oh.
This also means that if you do a luck roll, all of the dice you roll have to be 10s. And it's...
Holy shit.
It is not a case of... Luck rolls are not a case of roll a bunch of d10s and then add the modifiers. No, it's straight d10s. 1 d10 per point of luck that you spend. So could it mean that you end up rolling really well? Yeah. It also could mean you could end up rolling really not well. And again, rolling luck is a case of points. And hello there, Joe.
Hey, Joe, what's going on, man?
Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Mm-hmm. Now, yeah, and we ended up starting a bit late because technology screwed me over. But then we have knowledge rolls, which are a special type of luck roll, which is used to determine if you're aware of a certain piece of information, specifically that one that can't be learned through skills.
Interesting.
And if you are a wordcaster, you get a bonus to knowledge rolls. But I appreciate that knowledge is not treated as a skill, because for the same reason that within Legend Edition I try to avoid subjects of knowledge being treated as skills, because that's a one-way ticket to bloat.
Mm-hmm. Looking at you, 3.5e.
We'll also throw GURPS under the bus as well. Crafting and knowledge are individual skills, and that can result in a lot of bloat.
I know very little about GURPS.
But
you're a lucky man.
You also have the first impression roll, which is a charisma roll. Basically, to see what your first impression is. Whoever succeeds has made it's a contested roll. Whoever succeeds has made a positive impression on the other character. If the other character is a monster or NPC, they may turn hostile if you lose that roll. And if there's a difference of 10 or more between the two rolls, or if either character gets a perfect success or a total failure, the result is an extreme reaction.
Oh, interesting. What are you guys' thoughts on that, if you don't mind me asking? Like, where it's a random, that means you're gonna have a random face of the party just about every time you interact with someone new, right?
I look at it as something that could go either way.
Yeah, and I feel like this is kind of just like for a flavor type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Ethereal brought up something and said, "Don't forget Call of Cthulhu." I'm like, "Yep, that's another one."
I already brought up basic role playing earlier when it comes to the whole skills thing, and that's Call of Cthulhu is under that umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
And I may have told you this before, Alex, but one of the biggest non-Japanese TTRPGs in Japan is Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, I know that 1000%. That's one of the games that I follow for sure that has been huge over there, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, it's also the most unexpected from most people that I come across when I tell them that. They're like, "Really? Of all games?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like you would think, since JRPGs are a huge thing, and they usually don't fall into that genre, so as far as like noir investigation, stuff like that. But they love it. They love it. I think that's so cool.
But Al brings up, not necessarily random, like the face of the party would still statistically be the face, but every once in a while someone turns to the face for a specific NPC or two. When it comes to the whole impressions thing, I think it's fine so long as it's not abused. Like, don't have people roll this for every time you meet an NPC. And maybe only use it once for a potential combat scenario.
Like I said, I feel like it's more of a flavor thing, not really necessary, but it's nice to have the option.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're a pacifist character and you're just like, no, we gotta talk to every single one of them.
Which is a good way to piss off if you're gonna do the whole insist on talking to everybody, that's a good way to piss off everyone else at the table. And Dragon says they like all the tentacles. That's not the reason that Call of Cthulhu got big in Japan.
We don't know. No judgment here.
No, I know that's not the case. It has more to do with there already being a strong subculture of mystery fiction, especially due to Edogawa Ranpo. That and some replays that got really big over there. But when it comes to using luck for action rolls, as mentioned, you do spend luck, and you do have to declare how much luck you're spending before you roll. You can't add another point after you've rolled. That would kind of defeat the purpose of using luck. Though you can, if you're doing an action roll, you can roll luck to add it in, but that does mean that all of them have to roll 10s if you want to get that perfect success. And as far as what you can get from a perfect success, it can be an extra benefit or penalty that's GM dependent. It could be that you get proficiency points in what skill you used. By default, perfect successes give you 10 proficiency points, and total failures give you 5.
Something mentioned in chat. The GM could make the first impression roll 1 roll and then modify the roll based on the average charisma of everybody in the group they were meeting at the time. That's an interesting way to do it, actually.
That's one way to expedite the process. It also means you're not relying on one person to be the face man.
Which is a real big problem whenever you have the one person that has the charisma and then you have like other people who are not as charismatic. I've seen that happen not only in games that we played, but also like we did like Baldur's Gate, and we were like, okay, well, you're the one with all the charisma. I have no charisma, so here, have all my shit and go sell things because I can't sell things with the shit. So like it makes it a lot easier that way.
Yeah.
And a lot more fun for everyone else.
Now,
I've actually seen certain systems to add on to that. I've seen certain systems that eliminate charisma as a stat because of that very reason. Like to eliminate the whole thing of like discouraging you from interacting with the NPCs and only putting a face character in the front. Yeah. So that's a good point there about Baldur's Gate.
I think getting rid of charisma as a whole is a bit of an overcorrection personally, but that's a whole other story. Now,
sure.
There are ways to get luck back. If you do a perfect success on anything other than a combat roll, you get 1 point of luck. If you spent luck on a roll, any bonuses or penalties are multiplied by the total number of dice rolled, including proficiency points and luck gain. So you could very easily blow all of your luck onto one roll, but much like with MP in my system, you have the problem of you just blew that whole resource on one roll, and you're not getting it back easy. So you have this balance of how conservative do you want to get with luck. And I do like that they also bring up that you shouldn't have to do action rolls for everything. It should be when you don't want to do action rolls when the action's inconsequential, when success is obvious, or when the skill level is equal or greater than the difficulty.
And I've been trying to do that a lot more in my games. Just if it's like a small thing, it's like, yeah, you got it.
Now, combat is similar to a standard action roll, but with a few setups. Battles are in segments. Each segment is about 2 seconds. So first off, you roll for initiative and defense. Roll 1d10 and add your base initiative and base defense to determine when they act, your initiative value, and how difficult you are to hit. This is why it's called the INDN roll. As with action rolls available, luck can be spent to roll additional dice. And the same thing is done by the GM for any NPCs. So it is a case where lowest initiative declares first, and then highest initiative resolves first.
Very cool.
But since you've only got one action, I think this is one of those cases where it's not really it's only using so much gridness as you want to. And if you do get a perfect success or total failure, that can in the indent roll, which is what I'm calling it because I'm not paid by the syllable. You can get skill proficiency points for defense. You can have it that for this segment, your total absorption is doubled. if you get a total failure, you can get proficiency points as mentioned, or half absorption during that segment. And neither a perfect success or a total failure will restore luck. And as far as attacks go, it is your battle number versus their defense number. Full stop. You can spend luck on the roll, and instead of a natural 10 being the crit, you need the dice to match or exceed the critical value of the weapon being used. And there does seem to be implication that there's some weapons that do not great damage or on normal attacks, but are really good for critting. But again, the easiest way to crit is not using luck. Oh, it's an interesting balance. You can either guarantee you're gonna hit, or you can try and roll less well to hopefully get a crit.
So kind of risk reward, but kind of not.
Mm-hmm. No, since the odds of getting 2 10s is vastly lower than 1, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to go even lower the more D10s you add. But it also means you're going to have a much smaller chance of getting a botch. Now, if you do crit during a attack roll, the damage dealt is multiplied by the number of dice rolled plus 1.
Ooh.
This does mean if you spent a good amount of dice and you did a good amount of luck and you did crit, you're doing a shitload of damage. And I should note that that criticals ignore the damage cap.
Right. And it's double, you said, right?
It's only doubled if you didn't add any dice. That's why it states number of dice rolled in the BN roll. So if you did spend crit to roll more D10s, then and all of them pass the muster when it comes to doing a crit, then it's multiplied even further. So if you spent 1 point of luck on that roll, both of them crit, you're doing triple damage instead of double. And if you spend more points, it's quadrupled, and going all that further. But remember, all of them have to meet the threshold. And perfect success works the same as a critical hit and does grant proficiency points, but you don't get luck back. A total failure does grant half proficiency points, but you have a risk that the weapon will break.
Ugh.
You also, the fact that that in the next segment your initiative is cut in half.
Oh shit!
Game's vicious.
Which makes sense. You whiff that hard, you are leaving yourself wide open to getting punished. Imagine, if you will, someone trying to do the good old plunging attack in a Souls-like, and they whiff.
Ouch.
That's never happened to me ever.
Pretty sure that's why you don't play Souls games anymore.
Hey, I'm playing First Berserker Kazan. You shut up.
Now you are.
But when it comes to calculating damage, it is the damage value minus the target's absorption. And you can also spend luck to increase damage, but if you're just spending luck straight in that matter, you can't roll damage higher than the cap.
Mm-hmm.
It just means you have a higher chance of getting to that cap, but you're not going over it. Now, in the event of a critical hit, it is damage value roll times number of dice rolled plus 1 minus absorption. And there's going to be a bunch of other combat maneuvers that are available, but that's the basics. And then when it comes to damage, we have physical damage, self-explanatory. Mental damage, which can be things like sudden shock, being life drained by a monster, using word casting or pneumatic arts, operating a improperly attuned Ryude.
There's also emotional damage.
Yep. You also have damage effects, basically damage tiers. Light damage, heavy damage, and incapacitated. So light damage is equal to your is basically if you've taken damage but you still have durability left. But once you exceed that, then you're in heavy damage. When you're in heavy damage, you have to make a will roll with a difficulty equal to the amount of damage you've taken, or you're incapacitated. If it was physical damage, the GM makes a constitution roll using your base constitution with the same difficulty. If this roll fails, you're incapacitated even if you pass the will roll.
Rip.
So this game is deadly.
And if you're under heavy damage and you want to take an action, you have to pass a will roll first. The difficulty of that is equal to how much accumulated damage exceeds your physical and mental durability.
Question: when it says the amount of damage taken, is that in reference to the totality of damage taken, or just the strike that hit you, kind of
totality,
like D&D 5D? Okay. Ouch.
This is less like 5e and more like the damage save that was in Mutants and Masterminds.
Instead. That's what I was gathering. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, when accumulated damage equals or exceeds twice your physical durability or twice your mental durability, then you're straight up incapacitated.
Okay, that's not death. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
And he died.
If you end up taking 3 times your durability, either way, you either die or you go insane, respectively. Cool. And I should note that there are 2 scales of damage, on foot scale and mech scale. The conversion is times 10. So if you get hit by a mech, it's doing the normal damage times 10.
Okay. So it's almost taking that SDC MDC approach kind of thing.
Yeah, just not as much bullshit because, Kevin Simbeda isn't working on this.
And there's a whole other audience that just got offended. We almost forgot one.
Asian difficulty.
Yeah. But I appreciate at the very least that we're not dealing with escalating penalties. I've dealt with enough of that in World of Darkness. I don't feel like doing that for this. You can recover light damage, 1 point per day of physical and 1 point per hour for mental. Heavy damage is 1 point for every days equal to 16 minus your con attribute. Or for mental, 1 point every 16 minus con in hours.
Good lord, this game really is deadly.
Hmm.
I like it.
Now within
Yeah, I was about to say it's consistent in theme, which I love. With everything kind of meshes in together. Just like you're gonna get one shot probably.
You're gonna get one shot and you're gonna like it.
Yeah, with incapacitation, mental damage
about
recovers as if it was heavy damage. Physical damage, you're not recovering unless you're treated. Treating can be done with the medicine skill. If it's under light damage, you make an agility roll with the accumulated damage as difficulty, adding your medicine skill level. The character recovers a number of points equal to the amount of you exceeded the difficulty by, to a maximum of 5 points. On a perfect success, the cap is 10. A total failure inflicts 1d5 points of damage instead. For heavy damage, you need if the proper tools and space are available, the number of days needed to recover 1 point of damage is reduced by skill level. To revive a incapacitated character, a character with the medicine skill must make a successful agility roll. The difficulty of this roll is equal to the damage with a difficulty equal to the damage sustained by the character they're treating. This roll must take place in an appropriate location with proper equipment on hand. Other types of damage are going to be in the full rule set, obviously. And then we have supernatural techniques. And I'm going to do one small thing here.
Very cool so far.
Now, I just wanted to make one small edit. Now, the first supernatural technique we have are the gates. As I mentioned, there are 8 gates, which I guess I could say is analogous to the casting spheres, but no matter what, you're not going to be able to use all of them. To a certain point. You have the luminous gates and the umbral gates. The luminous gates are the gate of the sun, the gate of metal, the gate of fire, and the gate of wood. And they are guarded by the guardian of fire, the guardian of ice, and the guardian of steel. No, I'm not. I'm kidding.
God damn it, Mildra.
What? Don't you love having the stones grind on the 7 portals?
Yes, only when I can't get to that one fucking switch in the Guardian of Steel.
But the umbral gates are the gate of the moon, the gate of winds, the gate of water, and the gate of earth. And they are in opposition to each other. Sun opposes moon, metal opposes wind, fire opposes water, wood opposes earth. There are also certain unaffiliated techniques that are referred to as gateless techniques.
I was gonna say, kind of uses the 5 elements here.
We have the 5 wuxing elements as well as sun and moon. Because fire, wood, metal, water, earth, as well as adding in air. So we've got this mix of the Hellenistic and the wuxing elements.
That's pretty cool.
If I want to really stretch it, I could say the gateless techniques would be equivalent to void, but no. We're not dealing with L5R void magic here. Gateless techniques, from what I saw in that initial fan translation, are minor techniques compared to the ones that are associated with a gate. They can certainly be useful, but they're not going to outdo a gate technique in terms of raw power. But then we have how the word casting techniques are done. You choose a technique, you make a binding roll against a difficulty equal to the level of the technique. This is where you take mental damage and will be suffered for a number of segments indicated by the technique's binding time. If you fail the roll, the technique ends immediately. You can reattempt it. If it succeeds, the technique is activated. The INDN roll for the segment of the final binding roll determines when the technique can be used. On a roll of 9 or higher, the technique can be used in that same segment, but on an 8 or less, it will come into effect during the next segment. Basically, you're either going to do it same turn, or you're going to have to wait a full round to do it. And to determine the success of a binding roll, it is your base agility, plus armor modifier, plus your skill level for word casting. And of course, you beat the target number, the base binding value, then the technique succeeds. And when using a binding roll, you do take mental damage. So remember what we saw earlier when it came to damage, and put that in mind when it comes to your casters.
Love that.
The binding roll must be performed for the number of segments equal to the technique's binding time. I.e., a binding time of 2 means 2 consecutive segments, or 2 full turns, essentially. On a perfect success, the binding roll for the next segment is considered an automatic success. So all of that means if you roll that perfect 10, you get to do it 1 round faster. Additionally, a perfect success using luck points will extend the automatic success for a number of segments equal to the amount of luck spent. Of course, the number of segments and mental damage required to complete the technique does not change. So it's not a case where you spend all your MP or take all your mental damage at once when you do the spell. You're taking it in turns. So with casting, it's clear that time is your enemy. It's also clear that this is also a good way to represent the skill gap between high-tier casters and low-tier ones. Because I'd imagine a high-tier one is gonna be one who can do spells in much less time.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm. But I do appreciate. I like this approach rather than some sort of concentration thing. But and this is where the whole pairing thing comes into play. Ideally, you want to now. I know they said word casting skill, but each of the gates, with the exception of gateless, is its own skill. And this is going to play a factor in terms of mental damage, because the amount you take if the skill matches or it's a gateless is equal to the word casting level. If it's a non-opposite, you take twice the amount. If you're using the opposing skill, it's 3 times the amount. And if this would put you into heavy damage, you can't use the technique.
No using the tank.
Mm-hmm. Now, if a binding roll is a total failure, or if it fails just before it finishes, it could result in an explosion. Normally, this would cause the target of the technique to change, or if a different place than intended is affected, but the nature of the effect will not change. And you can avoid certain techniques with a action roll. This will be in the save section of the technique's description. It says, for example, the distracting effect of the light wipe is rendered ineffective by a difficulty 9 luck roll. So, as you can see, casting can be very powerful, but also very, very dangerous.
Yeah, love it.
Mm-hmm. But then we have Pneumatic Force, which Numinism is the key effect that I mentioned before. When using it, you declare your Pneumatic Force level, which must be the same value or lower from your Numinism skill level. This cannot be changed. There are no subtypes of Numinism skill. It's just you got it or you don't. After you declare that force level, an accumulation roll is attempted with a difficulty equal to that level. Regardless of the outcome of the roll, you take the appropriate amount of mental damage. This is repeated for a number of segments equal to the pneumatic force level. On a failed roll, the effect ends immediately. Once a number of rolls equal to the pneumatic force have been successful, the technique is activated. On a INDN roll of 9 or higher, can be used at the end of that same segment. On an 8, this is more or less the same as what we saw before. Though it also notes the accumulated energy can be held for a maximum of 1 turn. Now, pneumatic force grants a few benefits. Weapon damage is increased by the pneumatic force level. Critical value is reduced by the pneumatic force level. And you can inflict damage on creatures and objects that normally can't be harmed by weapons. And it's even better if you use this unarmed. Unarmed damage fist is increased by pneumatic force level +3, and during the next segment, the number of segments required to complete another accumulation is halved, down to a minimum of 1.
Oh, that's so cool.
An unarmed attack using pneumatic force deals 1d10 minus 7 damage with a critical value of 10.
Jeez.
Well, looks like you're dead. Or they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're all dead.
Omae wa mou shinderu.
Roses are red, violets are blue. Omae wa mou shinderu.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, beautiful.
Yep. But while you're accumulating pneumatic energy, you can also use pneumatic guard. A successful attack against you while your energy is accumulated will result in the following effects. Please note that your gathered energy will be released regardless of the outcome of the attack, and you'll need to restart the accumulation process again from step 1 to use pneumatic force. 1. You reduce damage taken by an amount equal to your force level. 2. If the opponent's attack is a perfect success, the damage multiplier is reduced by 1. The damage dealt cannot be lower than 1 times normal damage. And if the accumulation level that you have is 4 or higher than the attacker's, the attacker will receive a counter blow after their own blow lands, throwing them back a number of liets. The distance calculated is the defender's accumulation level minus the attacker's accumulation level divided by 4. If there are no
so you can.
Good.
I said, so you can essentially punish counter.
Mm-hmm. If there are no obstacles nearby and the ground is soft, the attacker will simply be thrown without damage. Otherwise, they take physical damage equal to the distance thrown minus distance traveled in D10. For example, if an attacker was to be thrown 2 liets, or 8 meters, but hit an obstacle 1 liet away, they would take 1d10 damage. This damage cannot be reduced by armor. So, that could result in a bit of wall bang fun.
Yep, a lot of wall splat.
Also, thank you, Snackle Fox, for the raid. Hope Withering Waves treated you well. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Mildra. I am your one and only gaming monk, and tonight we are going through the preview of the Where's Blade TTRPG. Hopefully Withering Waves treated you well. I don't know why my notification didn't show up.
Because it doesn't like you.
Then tell it to get in line. But
I was anticipating somebody to finish that Star Wars quote, and now I'm sad.
No, I knew where you were going. I just decided to sandbag it.
Well, I don't like you either.
You don't even know me.
But of course, in addition to the offense and defense that you saw with that, we have pneumatic arts, which are pneumatics equivalent to techniques. Each technique has a level determined by its power, and a monk is able to use any technique equal to or lower than your numinism skill level. Techniques can be performed at a higher level than their default, with their effects magnified accordingly. So essentially, choose a technique and attempt the level to which to attempt it at. Obviously, your numinism skill is the cap, and yeah, I try to be good to folks, but then you make an accumulation roll in the same manner as pneumatic force, and if the accumulation rolls for the appropriate length of time is succeeded, it's activated, same time as your enemy thing we mentioned before. Now, the accumulation roll is performed each segment. It has a difficulty value to the level of the technique and uses your base accumulation value. This is equal to your base will and your mental resistance skill level. Now, if this value is equal, plus the result of the D10 is equal to the level of the technique being attempted, then you succeed. And of course, doing accumulation rolls does mean you suffer mental damage. And
gathering all that mental seconds. Yeah. Well, gathering all that mental energy is going to take a toll on the body and the mind.
Now, you can do techniques at higher levels, but it does make the effect either harder to avoid or more powerful. But some don't have any benefit to doing it at a higher level. The amount of mental damage suffered per segment, as well as its difficulty, is increased as well. So, if a level 3 technique is used at level 7. The difficulty taken are calculated as if it was a level 7 technique. The accumulation time doesn't change, though. And the mental damage you suffer per segment is twice the technique level minus your numinism skill level. So, there's a... When I saw the way monks end up working, I'm like, okay, you guys did monks right.
Yes.
How is it that monks were able to be done right in this game from 1989, yet some people writing fantasy games now can't get it right?
Because I think it's often viewed on a skewed version of how monks were portrayed in various media.
I also think it's a case of martial characters getting treated like shit in some games.
That too.
But then we have Invocation, which works similarly to Numinism, but you don't get the whole offense and defense thing. Invocation is this game's equivalent to Divine Magic. And in that same vein, you are making a prayer roll. The base prayer value is your will plus your mental resistance skill level. But unlike word casting, a total failure does not mean there's a chance for explosion. But there is a risk that your skill level might temporarily fail. Or not fail, fall, what am I saying? On a total failure, you have to roll a d10. On a 1 to 3, your invoking skill drops 1d5 levels for 1 day. If this drops it to 0 or lower, you cannot use invoking until it's restored. So essentially, if you screw up, you get the disfavor of your gods. And of course, you are still taking mental damage per segment, and... Oh. If and when doing accumulation or prayer, if you take damage, you have to make a will roll with a difficulty equal to the amount of damage taken. Even if the damage would be absorbed by your armor. You're just doing a will roll with difficulty 1. If you fail the roll, the accumulation attempt fails. So I know what do you guys think of how this game is handling its magic system, both through word casting, pneumatic arts, and invocation?
It is very different. I like how each school has its own way of working.
I like its the way that it just kind of like what Sig just said with its own way of working. It's just I like the way that it's its own system, if you will. Like it's you're not drawing on another power. You're not drawing on other things. It's just like your own power there.
Yeah.
With the exception of invocation.
Well, you know what I'm trying to say. It's like, it's just...
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it as well. I'm piggyback off of what they're saying. I think what's really cool about it, since you are utilizing a different system to even come up with where you're trying to roll and how things are being expended, I think this is kind of the cure to what a lot of people complain about in a lot of Western games, where you say something like, what's the discrepancy betwixt a sorcerer, a wizard, and a warlock kind of thing, right? And even sometimes they'll come up with other classes like witch and stuff like that. And what you'll find majority of the time is there's a lot of overlap. Now, of course, they still have their slight discrepancy between each other, but I think this really nails it on the head, where you really feel as though you're utilizing a different source of power. You're tapping into something else, if you will. I think that's going to be a lot of fun for characters, and they're not going to feel like they're samey comparatively to their teammates. And I think everyone wants that ultimately, right? When you play a role-playing game, everyone should have their own moments that belong to them. The spotlight should be at them during certain segments, if you will, in the game. So I think that's very cool.
Yeah, exactly.
But then we get to the bigger part of the whole affair. Operating Ryude.
Oh yeah, here we go.
So Ryude have their own ability scores, and these are usually going to be rated from 1 to 10. You have speed, how quickly it can move and react; power, self-explanatory; armor, also self-explanatory; and balanced, how easy it can keep its balance when moving.
That's like a baby.
Yep. Much like characters, you do have initiative numbers, damage, defense numbers, and battle numbers that are used during combat. Now, a Ryude will have a rank, and some of them will also have a mask rank. These ranks go from J, the weakest, to A, the strongest. Now, a normal walking pace, a Ryude moves at the same speed as a horse, about 12 kilometers per hour. They can usually travel for about 8 hours a day. Sorry, yeah, 12 kilometers per hour. So let me do a kilometers to miles thing for some of you.
It's about 2.3. Give or take.
12 kilometers is 7.4 miles. Now, the dashing speed, it will move a number of liets equal to half its speed value, and can maintain that speed for 5 seconds. The jumping power is its power times 6 vertically. When jumping after a that's with vertical. When jumping after a dash, it can jump a length of power times 50 liets and a height of power times 6 liets.
Eesh. It's interesting how they separated that from movement and dashing, like putting jumpy power as a separate thing. I kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, for fall endurance, that's determined by its rank. For durability, that is how much damage it can take before being inoperable. So, when it comes to operating a Ryude, you need to have at least 1 rank in drive. You don't have that, you're not piloting, or you probably could, but you're going to be draining MP real fast. The drive skill also acts as a modifier for action rolls made by the Ryude, as well as its initiative and battle rolls made during combat. So the higher a Ryude's rank is, the harder it is to operate. This is represented by the required drive value. The difference between this value and the character's actual drive skill is the drive modifier. If this modifier is negative, attunement checks and operator rolls suffer a penalty equal to the drive modifier. If it's positive, then you gain a bonus. Now, when an operator enters a Ryude, the will contained within its mask will attempt to resist being controlled. If that resistance is not overcome, the operator will struggle to control the machine. In a worst-case scenario, the machine may control them. So, those of you who are 40k aficionados may recall how controlling a Titan can be very dangerous. But the more powerful the mask, the greater the resistance. This is represented by the attunement check. And this is the one case where you need to roll under it.
Oh.
And obviously, rolling a 1 is a perfect success, rolling a 10 is a total failure. And if the attunement check results in a penalty, that applies anytime you operate that Ryude. So trying to attune to a Ryude is
surprise, motherfucker.
Hello there, Skid. Welcome to the party. For those of you once again who do not know me, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk, and tonight we're going through the preview of the Where's Blade TTRPG, which is currently crowdfunding and actually completely smashed its initial crowdfunding goal in 10 minutes. But getting back to the attunement check, after finding the attunement value for the Ryude's mask, roll 1d10, subtract your drive modifier. If you roll a 1, it's a perfect success. If you roll a 10, it's a total failure. If you pass the roll, you can control the Ryude, no problems. If you fail, then you roll on the attunement penalty table and apply the result. So you could have it that your base drive is permanently reduced by 1, the speed is permanently reduced by 1 for the Ryude, the speed and power reduced by 1, or worse things.
That's an interesting decision there to put the image over the attunement table where you can't see the 8 to 4 number.
Whoops.
Whoopsie poodle.
It's just a really cool looking mech, and they had to show it off. Just had to happen.
How can you deny a mech with a Pope hat?
I'm telling you. And that pose, too. Like, actual badass.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool, though. I really like this opposite approach here. Once again, leaning into what we talked about before with the magic system. Thus far, like, very cool that you're flipping it on its head when you're entering the mecha for that lower roll. I think that's pretty clever.
Although it's, if you end up taking attunement penalties, you're going to be screwed no matter what. But if you roll low on that, you're even worse. As you know, if you get the 1, you're taking 2d10 mental damage. You don't have a whole lot of physical and mental durability, so you roll too well on that mental damage, that could outright kill you.
Yep. Very, very cool.
But then you have the operator roll. Instead of using your base values, operator rolls use a base drive value. Your drive skill level minus required drive plus your base agility. And the base drive value is recorded in the Ryude sheet, meaning you only need to calculate it when you first attempt to operate the Ryude. And as far as the roll procedure, the difficulty is based on what you're trying to do. And if terrain is a factor, that's going to cause additional penalties. And the basic actions have their own difficulty modifiers as well as movement. And I do like the setup because it makes clear controlling a Ryude is not going to be easy. You know, in the same way that driving a vehicle is something you have to do with some degree of care. Like, the base difficulty for most basic actions is 2, and depending on the action you're doing, it could be more.
Wait a minute, did it say standing?
Yeah, standing would be a base difficulty of 3.
Oh my god. It is a baby. It's a baby. Gonna stand. Oh, it's 2 feet.
And of course, if that's assuming level ground, if you're trying to stand while dealing with terrain, that could be anything from a +2 difficulty to a +9 difficulty. But you'd roll d10, add your base drive, and any modifiers from the attunement penalty tables. You can spend luck if you so wish. Obviously, you're trying to beat the difficulty. If it's one or less, or if all dice came up 1, roll d10 on the operator table and apply the results.
Golly. Would you guys implement, like, if you're playing this and should I say GMing it, would you implement that this be the case, all these penalties and stuff like that, for outside of combat as well as inside, or would you say like outside of combat these things just kind of happen normatively, like you're known to be like a competent pilot kind of thing, like driver or whatever?
I'd say it's context sensitive. It's really going to be a case where I'm only going to do it if there's a risk of failure, which is my general policy when it comes to dice rolls.
Right, and that's why I was saying that, because I remember you said like the theme behind this is like it's very difficult to even do a basic thing, which is what I was saying. Like, so does that mean outside of combat you would say, hey, look, if you're trying to make like a sharp turn on this large landscape, you still have to make the roll. And I know a lot of this is subjective, right? I mean, of course, clearly it's player to player basis and whatever, but I'm just wondering how far is too far when it comes to this, because this is pretty granular, man. It's pretty granular, and it's not a bad thing. I think it's pretty cool, especially during combat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of those comes down to the GM kind of things, which I know some people hem and haw about that, but there's a reason GMs were originally called referees, much in the same way that a referee in any sports game even if they have a full rule book, they are going to have to make judgment calls. Sometimes those judgment calls are absolute shit. looking at you.
Whatever do you mean?
In every playoff NHL game I've ever seen, to the point where whenever a fan of a certain team says that they were screwed by the refs, I'm like, first time? Don't even get me started on the replacement ref era in football, which was so bad it made the games unwatchable. Which, things are bad when the crowd for a Sunday night game is outright chanting bullshit.
That's pretty bad. That's really bad.
But no, initiative, defense, and battle values are calculated as normal. Though they're used, but the calculation setup is a bit differently. For initiative, it's the base sense of the operator, the speed of the Ryude, plus a drive modifier, plus an attunement penalty if appropriate, and the D10 roll. So it's not a case where no matter how good of a pilot are you're dealing with the same kind of stats. No, you're a good enough pilot, you're gonna be doing well. But this also potentially means that a highly skilled pilot in a suboptimal mech could win out against a high quality mech to a point. So in theory, you could have the equivalent of a Gundam getting their ass kicked by a ball. It's not going to be easy, but it is possible. And fortunately, when it comes to a lot of Ryudes, they're going to have the initiative number value already set in. You can still use luck, obviously. And if you fail the initiative roll, you have to roll on operator table A. So imagine how embarrassing it is if you roll a 3 on that and you end up falling over and taking D10 damage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Of course, DN value is equal to the operator's base agility, the Ryude's speed, and drive modifier and attunement penalties.
Interesting. It says all occupants. How many people does it take to operate one of these Ryude for the most part?
One. Sometimes
okay, so that's just like exceptions to the rule kind of situation. Yeah. Okay.
But DN and BN work on a similar setup here. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, what you really see here is that in combat, there are 3 stats that are going to matter most. IN, DN, and BN. Initiative, battle number, and damage number. Which is why I consider the complexity of Were's Blade, from everything I've seen, to be more front-loaded. Like, there's a lot of complexity in, say, the character creation and advancement because of all the skills and whatnot, but actual play is pretty straightforward.
It does seem that way. It does seem like it's just, like, once you get the hang of it, it does seem very straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
I think there will be a lot of, like, learning discrepancies, like we spoke about before, though, right? So, like, there's a lot of, what do you call it, like, consorting to tables and stuff like that. And trying to remember which stats you blend together to perform a specific task, right?
Yeah, but that's
so even though
that's no different than any other game.
Sure, but yeah. But I think for the most part, though, like other games, you could always just say, all right, you have these like segmented skills, and they all fall under, I don't know, an attribute of some sort, right? So you always know that attribute plus the skill modifier, and that's it, right? And then, but here you might have like 3 different attributes, and then they only populate, and like the combination of those 3 are different because this is a skill-based game. So that is the pro and the con of taking this route, where it's not so attribute focused as it is skill focused. So there's a lot more to have to pick and choose from to add on to those attributes and other things in the game. And that's not like I said, that's not a bad thing. It just definitely, I could see there's some learning curve there to try and figure out which 2 or 3 stats you're putting together for any one conclusion, right? Like for any one type of action or something you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. But I personally enjoy that because it seems, I'm just running through the numbers as we're reading through this. It seems pretty well balanced. I don't know if you guys are like taking note of like what you're capable of rolling with each of these charts and stuff like that, and what the averages are. It seems like they really did a good job with the crunch here, where making sure that things don't get too lopsided, even though the opportunity is there because you are in fact going to die. Mm-hmm. So very, very cool. I'm enjoying this far.
Yeah.
Really, really neat.
So when it comes to damage, it is damage value roll plus the power value of the Ryude plus the target's armor value. And of course that's targeting durability. You can spend luck on damage, but it is still capped. Though I didn't see anything about criticals yet. Well, there's critical damage, so we'll probably get to that in a minute. But when damage exceeds certain thresholds, there are certain steps carried out. When total durability loss exceeds a multiple of 10, you have to roll d10 on the standard damage penalty value and adjust the Ryude's values accordingly. This may also result in the operator taking values. When the final damage dealt by an attack is equal to or greater than the Ryude's armor, they have to roll 1d10 on the critical damage table and apply the results accordingly. So even after the subtraction of armor value, if it's still greater than if the total amount is equal to or greater than armor, then you are gonna have a bad time. The standard damage is doing a penalty to either armor, power, or speed. Or you could roll on critical damage and have it be even worse, where you get even a bigger penalty and the operator takes damage. Or you could go even worse with things like a power failure that determines what part is screwed up. Or the worst case, mask destroyed. As I mentioned before, if the mask gets fucked up, you don't have a mech anymore, you just have a bunch of metal. You just have the world's largest, most expensive coffin. And we have the damage location table. I'm fine with damage locations. I've always been kind of iffy about localized damage, because I feel like that's something that works better in games where range combat is more important, which is why I'm perfectly fine with it in something like BattleTech, where it's going to be more of range combat, even though some crazy pilots are going to throw hands. Looking at you, every Hunchback pilot ever. And every Charger pilot ever.
Super.
And damage table B can result in mechanical failures that can make things even worse. Like if the neck is disabled, the arm's disabled, the leg's disabled. If there is a coolant leak, that can result in steam blasting out of the thing and it becomes immobilized. Vessel rupturing, meaning that it is bleeding out essentially. And the mask destroyed, which, if that happens, the Ryude is lost.
After all, if the head is destroyed, it's disqualified.
Yep. And of course, there's a lot more. And I will note within the full rule set, there are going to be rules for full Ryude creation. There are a bunch of pre-gens, but there are ways to do custom ones. Though having someone make your personalized mech is going to be very expensive, which is why a lot of people are going to be going into Ruins to try and find their own Ryude instead of having one of the factions make one for them. And we have 3 pre-gen Ryudes of the 3 different types. Footman are the weakest type, but they're also easy to produce and easier to handle. These would be the equivalent of your Zaku 2s, I guess. You know, easy to use, mass produced, not very strong. Like the rank is a G as far as its mask. It's easy to tell a Footman type because they'll usually have no neck. But you do still need to have a few ranks. You need at least 4 ranks in drive in order to use it, and its mask rank is H. But then you have the coursers. Coursers are the mech hunter types of mechs. These usually are meant to look like knights, and they're usually the big swinging dick kind of ones in mech combat. So these are your central character mechs. This is your Gundam. This is your Red Zaku. This is your Goof, which is no Zaku boy, no Zaku. No, they are significantly more powerful, but they're also harder to control and require a lot more skill to use and to attune. And because they also tend to have face guards. And then you have Maledictors, which are on the same tier as Coursers, but they have two masks. One to operate, and the other for spellcasting.
So if an Atlan didn't have the freaking shoulder cannons but had magic.
Or if you imagine a magic version of the Fenrir.
Very nice.
You know, with its big with its big ass Gauss cannons. Although I've no, not the Fenrir. That's the type of battle armor. I'm thinking of the Fenris. The but even beyond that, if somebody wanted, trying to think of an equivalent to this sort of casting mech, and I'd say these are the ones that are going to be the literal heads of a battlefield. Like the mask rank for this is E. The attunement value is 5. And it can also, and you've also seen that it has a Ryude mind unit durability. So Maledictors have their own MP essentially, which I would assume the user of them the pilot is going to be using that MP instead of their own. And after that, we have a nice little thing of the character sheet proper. Fortunately, they're not doing the force you to use one page thing, but it's pretty straightforward here. And we also have the second page proper. I do like these little charts that we've got here that I could easily see putting like a little coin on. Though, because of the fact that these cap at 15, it's pretty clear you're not the most durable. And we have that for Wordcaster, and because it states chosen gate and opposing gate, it is likely that you're going to be picking one gate that you focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure what memory points are. That wasn't specified here. That'll be in the full book, I'd imagine. We also have a thing for Spiritualist. And finally, one page for the Ryude itself. As well as segments for Ryude durability. And that more or less covers Where's Blade. I was planning on doing both Where's Blade and Dreamwalkers, but given how long this ended up going, we're just gonna be doing Where's Blade tonight.
Sounds good to me.
But overall, what's your guys' impressions of Where's Blade from this preview?
Sounds really fun and balanced in ways that is, we're probably not as used to. But
I definitely like a lot of it, especially with the different disciplines of magic, as it were, as well as all the cool mech stuff.
Yeah, I enjoy how brave they were with this approach. You know, normatively, whenever you go the mecha route, you usually don't touch magic too much, and I think it's really cool for them to be able to blend in such a way and to still make it where casting that magic is in fact still dangerous and deadly. Um, I think that's an amazing blend. I think definitely if we're looking as far as like a complexity rating here, I would say it's probably more so than the typical like Western or like D&D Fifth Edition or something like that. But I think it's definitely less than GURPS, somewhere in between there. And I think that the complexity though is something that's more intuitive. So the cool part about it is though, even though it is complex, as you were saying before, Mildred, I think it's nothing that someone couldn't get used to after playing a while because you start plugging in, like it'd be a plug and play after a while. And I think that's really fun, like to be able to know that there is some granularity and to not shy away from that, but to instead say that's part of the theme of the game, and you're gonna have fun rolling under all these different crazy charts and having mechas explode all over the place and people's minds going crazy. I'm really looking forward to trying this out. I actually would love to play test this at some point. It was great. Thank you for showing this to me, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kickstarter is still running. And on the YouTube version of this, I will have the link in the description. For those of you watching who on Twitch, here's the link for you. And full disclosure, I've obviously interviewed Bradley. I did that last week, and I will likely be talking with him again for future projects. But also, I did back the game, and a lot of people are gonna. I know I've made some Gundam jokes, but if there's one video game that is a close parallel to what this is doing, it is what was known in Japan as Epica Stella, but Vanguard Bandits here in the States.
Oh.
Especially since as we can see here, there's that mixture of mecha and a high fantasy setting. Though the idea of a caster mech is a case of why haven't we seen more of that?
Exactly. That's not something you see very often, especially in a lot of mecha.
I think the closest I've seen is maybe Knights and Magic, which is a whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah, very brave of them. Like I said, it's a cool new approach, and I'm thoroughly enjoying everything we've read this far. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
As
far as
what I do love too, I don't know if you guys noticed this. Like, it's not like it doesn't seem as though you're flying around everywhere. It seems to be, in a weird way, kind of like a grounded mecha game, like closer to so like less armored core. And probably closer to like, I know it's going to sound weird. It's almost like as if Mech Warriors, but with like without that technology, if that makes sense. Like it's kind of crazy because they're talking about jumping for the most part rather than flying in space and like shooting lasers at each other. I like the feel. It's very gritty.
There is a certain degree of grit with Armored Core, but it's a different affair.
Yeah.
That is the reason why I brought up Vanguard Bandits or brought up Elemental Gearbolt or Panzer Dragoon. It is more in that approach, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that there were a couple video games. Obviously, none of them came stateside, but I do have to shame every single journalist who called this Gundam meets D&D.
It's definitely not.
I was about to say, no, this is not even close.
Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of history that we've seen. We haven't even scratched the surface on the setting. And when I was digging around, I saw that apparently somebody tried to convert Where's Blade to Savage Worlds, but I don't know if that's a good idea. Don't get me wrong, I love Savage Worlds to death, but I don't think it's the right fit. But with that said, that is going to do it for this week. I know I was very late, and it's midnight now. That wasn't the intent. But we'll be back next week at the usual time, diving into more of the classes for Draw Steel. And if the class we covered last week is any indication, I think we are in very, very good hands.
Oh yeah, for sure. I really enjoyed the paladin type class that we did the last time.
Yeah, the censor.
Yes.
So keep an eye out for that. And of course, there's gonna be a lot more stuff coming down the pipe. Especially come next week, and even more so come next month, which I've talked about in the past. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
我所